Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and today is Stretch the Sketch. So this is a sketch we are all working from today, and I decided instead of squishing this down into 8.5 by 11 like I have been doing, I thought I would keep the proportions square and just shrinking this to an 8 by 8. I know some people scrapbook with 8 by 8 albums, but I also think this size is really good for if you're going to do any kind of gift. I think 8 by 8 is a great size, so it's a good tool to have in your warehouse to shrink these 12 by 12 sketches down a little bit, and it makes it really easy because the proportions are all the same. You're just making everything smaller. So right now I'm going to gut the middle of this wood grain. I want this wood grain to be my 8 by 8. I just decided to gut the middle portion of that paper though, that way the leftover is a frame. That way for a future layout I already have that wood grain frame I can use as the background. And then I decided to just mat this on a plain piece of white. I'm going to ink both of these in my Distress Oxide Ground Espresso to give that kind of brown vintagey look. And that's where I'm going to start with my background. I'm just trying to make it this kind of miniature size, and it was so cute working on this smaller format. You'll see once I get going, I really try to make my layers more literal to that sketch. I really like the way they layered the paper layers. I like the banner going in the background. Because this is a smaller sketch, I am just using one photo instead of three. That way I can still have room to do my layers on this smaller format. But once I start layering with the scraps that I have and I decide what colors I want to use, the products I had didn't really work well with the type of layers that's in that original. So I end up going off book a little bit once I get down to that. This is a 4x6, but there's a lot of dead space in this photo. So you can see I'm just trimming off some of the excess. I mentioned in a previous layout that there's some like orange construction in the background of some of these photos. So I'm just going to make sure I use my embellishment to cover up that part of the background. This is in our downtown Ackworth area, which is Marcus is in my hometown. And we love our little train track depot that's downtown. So that's where these couple photos were taken that you've seen this month. I'm starting out with a couple layers from my 49 and Market, and then you'll see me try to continuously pull in these scraps to the left and it just isn't working, so I have to edit a little bit. But I'm gonna mat the photo on some plain white just so I get one layer down. I'm gonna ink that as well, and then I really like this 49 and Market layer that's a little bit irregularly shaped. I think that's really interesting. So I know I'm gonna have that, but you'll see once I start layering with some of these scraps that I have, like the colors aren't really working, and it's just, I end up doing it a little bit different. I do like this layer, this kind of very subtle white text print. I think that's a really nice layer, and I end up keeping that one. But all these other bits I keep trying to add to create those layers from the original sketch, I just end up finding distracting, and I need to tone down a little bit. So you'll see my process here as I go through trying to stagger all these little bits. I thought about this blue piece being that big banner that was in the sketch. But I don't like the addition of this dark wood grain when I already have this kind of gray, different type of wood grain as the background. And then I didn't really like the introduction of the blue and then the pink that's in this floral. So I have to reconsider a little bit, but I wanted to leave this part in so you could see what I was going for initially. So that when I change it up, you can kind of see where my mind went. But once I pulled back and I was like, there's too much going on, there's too much color, I decided to keep this more monochromatic. I really like the taupey neutral tones that some of my layers are. So I end up going more down that track. I switched that one floral out for this one. I think this one's a lot more subdued and a better size, and the leaves of that floral cover up the part of the background that I want covered, so I will end up using that as one of my clusters. But this is where I pull back, I take out all the layers I thought were being distracting, and I kind of start over with the parts that I liked. And this is where I decided to go more down this neutral path, pick more of those taupey colors and browns. I pulled in another scrap from 49 and Market there. And I kind of just stop looking at my sketch at this point to get my layers down, and then I'll revisit my sketch for some other ideas further down, but right now I'm like, okay, I just need to look at what I have to formulate this page, and then I'll revisit the sketch in a minute. So I'm pulling in this kind of taupey green leafy bit. I'm pulling back in that floral cluster I ended up liking, a couple like brown tickets. There's like a creamy stamp. There's this like tan lacy bit. So I'm just trying to take all of these bits to figure out what I want to do. That's a 12-inch strip, that lacy strip. So you can see I'm just trimming a couple pieces off of it to get what I need. And that way I have a good sized scrap of that left over for a future page. But I'm using this lacy element as that horizontal detail instead of the banner. I still will include a banner on here just as a nod to the original sketch, but I think this lacy bit worked a lot better with my layout. So now that I kind of have composed a starting point for what I'm liking, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these bits together. I'm still gutting what I can from all of this stuff, especially the 49 Market layering bits. I'm trying to salvage that because I love adding those into my layers. So I just gutted a section of that, and then I'm going to layer that onto that kind of more white piece. But there is a little remember when word die cut I'm going to add to the top there, which I think is really sweet. And then I'm just trying to remember to ink all my edges as I go. So I'm taking a moment to do that. But I really like how this is coming along. I like the kind of delicate layers and keeping it kind of more neutral. So this is making me very happy. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down and get this final piece. That final piece I'm also going to gut because you're only going to see like two little edges of it. So you'll see me salvage that as well. So I'm going to get that glued down, and then I'm pretty sure I'll go ahead and glue this onto the wood grain. I don't think I actually got the wood grain on here. Just because I have a whole nother 12 by 12 of that, and I already salvaged the frame from when I gutted the 8 by 8. So I'm okay not gutting this section. I'm just trying to keep all of these bits and pieces where they were because I liked how I had them layered. And I'm even trying to remember to ink all of these little ephemera bits. So I got that kind of, I don't know if that's a bingo card or what. I got that stuck down. Now I'm going for the florals. I'm going to layer a couple different sizes of florals just for some fun. I have a lot of florals to work through this month. There's a ton that came in this collection, but there's also florals that came in my 49 Market pack. So I'm trying to mix and match them a little bit. I really want to focus more on the P13 florals, but I'm being really more drawn to the 49 Market florals, so I might just end up using more of those this month than what I intended. But they work so well with this collection, so it is what it is. But now that I got that background piece down, I went ahead and glued down my layers, and now I'm going to stick down this banner. The front side of that banner, they're all oriented in like a vertical formation. I like using my banners more horizontally, so I'm going to use the back side of this, which is the polka dot that's pink, so I don't get distracted by the design that's in a weird orientation. But that's my kind of nod to the original sketch because there was a banner included. So I still have that banner horizontal element, even though the layers now don't look anything like the original. And then I'm going to get this floral piece stuck down. I do want a little bit of dimension. There's a lot of paper on paper layers here, so I want you to be able to distinguish between all the little bits and pieces. There's that cute little stamp frame I'm adding as a layer too, which I think is really cute. But you'll see how I kind of mix and match using my glue tape and my foam dots, just so the main portion of these die cuts are glued straight down, but kind of the edges or the top pieces are popped up on some foam, so you get a little bit of that shadow, which I think look really nice. There's also some random bits in the 49 Market layering stuff. There's like keys and buttons and kind of just some weird extra things, and so I decided to go ahead and get a key on this one as well. I think it's another interesting layer to add that's in that neutral tone, so that's why I just popped that key on there. I think it's kind of fun. And here you can see where I added some of those dimensional dots just around the edge of that floral, just so there's a little bit of dimension. But I got the key down. I definitely want another cluster somewhere. I'm really only clustering on the left side of this page, but this is where I kind of decide to do a little bit in the opposite corner in the upper right hand. So I pulled in one of the butterflies from my 49 Market sheet, and I'm just going to toss a couple of the florals from P13 just to continue that floral motif. I'm just trying to pick a couple smaller ones though, so they don't overwhelm the butterfly. So I'm going to get that stuck down. And then I think I've pulled it in a couple times, but there is a tan strip of tickets from 49 Market that I end up using. I took it off originally because I thought it was too different from the original sketch I'm supposed to be using as my inspiration. As I look at this page, I really wanted an extra layer over there that kind of connected the photo to that top cluster a little bit more. So I just go ahead and add the tickets. So you'll see that come back in here in a little bit. But once I kind of get this cluster more down, I kind of like, okay, I need to go back to my sketch and pull in a couple more literal elements, because I think I really went off the rails a little bit once I got started on my clusters. One of the things I really liked in the original sketch was there's kind of this cross-stitching detail along the top and bottom of the page. So I really wanted to include some stitching on the top and bottom. I thought originally I was just going to do a straight stitch along the bottom and then maybe some cross stitches across the top. But you'll kind of see when I get there why that doesn't work. So I changed that a little bit too. But this is where I go back and I add the ticket. I'm just inking the edges, and I really like how this extra layer looks. So I'm glad I went back and added it, even though it really, really goes off of the sketch. I just think it's another perfect neutral tone to add. So I think that's cute. I love this little mini size too. It was fun working on the 8x8, but this is where I'm going to go in to pierce my holes to do my stitching. So I'm just doing the bottom holes. Actually, all the holes are 1/2 inch apart. I wanted a longer stitch. I thought it would look interesting, but it also saved me some time. So I thought I was going to do just a straight stitch across the bottom. And now I'm planning on doing two even rows across the top, so I can do like a long cross stitch. But as I start piercing this first line, it ends up crooked. So instead of cross stitching, I just decided to make the other row super slanted. That way it looks intentional that I just have like two kind of crooked lines of stitching. And I actually really like how it turns out, but that's why I ended up not doing the cross stitching. And I'll cut through a bulk of the stitching, but I wanted to keep in a portion just so you could see what I meant. You'll be able to see it better once I actually have the thread through, but yeah, you can see. I just decided to embrace the slant and keep going. So I like how that turned out. I think it was fun. I'm glad I got the stitching detail on here somehow. As a literal nod to the sketch. And now I decided to go ahead and add a couple of those thread bundles that I've been doing this month since I already had the thread out. So I'm just adding a bundle behind the floral to the left and a bundle behind the butterfly at the top. I'm not going to do a title or journaling. I kind of don't think like I need to on this page. It's pretty self-explanatory, but because I am a 12x12 scrapper, I do want to mat this on a piece of 12x12. So I went back to my stash. I just pulled out this floral from the collection. And again, I'm going to gut the center of it so I have a good piece of that to use on future layouts. And I'm just going to use the outside of this paper to create that 12x12 look so it can go in my album. So I think that floral plays really well off of the clusters I have, and it adds a little bit more color to the page while still keeping it neutral. So I think it makes it even better that I use more neutral layers because now I have this interest around the outside. But yeah, so there's my layout. I don't think I add anything else. I'm just going to ink the edge of the floral paper as well. And that's pretty much it. So you'll see the close-ups in a little bit. Make sure you check out the description to see who else is playing along with this sketch and see what they did with it. This is my 8x8, so I hope you guys enjoyed this different size. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.